Awesome. So Brian, talk to us, brother. Right? Actually, why don't you do this? For those that don't know everything that happened with like the family, the newborn, and all that stuff, why don't you kind of share a little bit about the struggles, right, and the challenges that's coming your way? Then we'll kind of go around in terms of like providing a solution for you that I think is going to help out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, well, so it's been sort of this ongoing thing. It's not just the baby. I've been struggling probably since starting of last, I think October we bought a new house, sold our old house when it finally got all done. So we were working months up to that, trying to get the house ready, fixing the fence, doing all this stuff to get it ready, cleaning it, ready to go to show. Then you do showings every day, and then you got to leave the house for a period of time and come back and all that. Uh, then fast forward to now, the hardest thing that I'm struggling with right now is so obviously in the beginning, the baby doesn't sleep very well. So it's like you're just, trying to help your wife as much as possible because my wife's breastfeeding. So I just did what I could, change the baby when I could. I would give a bottle there to the baby to help her out so that she gets some sleep and vice versa. And we took some time off together to do that. And she's still off and it's been working out really well. I think the big struggle is how to leave the house with the three kids at home. It's tough because I don't want to leave her by herself all the time. And so then I bought some dumbbells, and then I have an adjustable bench. But what I've realized is uh, I've gotten so out of shape compared to where I was previously. I did one ab workout and I was out for 3 days because my back was jacked and my hip flexors. I'm like, oh my God. So it's like starting over. So I think part of it's a defeated feeling, like, man, I'm starting over again from scratch, which is frustrating. I know it's only temporary. So my mindset, I understand the process. Like this is only a temporary period in your life. It's not going to be this way forever. Like things will eventually either be normalized or go to a new normal, basically. And so that's what I'm struggling with right now is how to, and part of it's motivation, I ain't gonna lie, so the good news is my stress is fine. My stress is good. I'm sleeping good. So those are important things. It's just hard getting back into the routine when you've basically, I'm not saying I've fallen off, but I've fallen off. Like I'm not your daily habits that you stack for such a long time, when you go for a long period of time and you lose those habits, it's basically like I feel like I need to start over basically from scratch, and pretend like I'm a brand new client, and that's kind of how I feel right now. So
I love it.
um
This is
yeah.
gonna be good. This is gonna be really good, man. Because so like obviously with you with selling the house, having the newborn and all that stuff, somebody might not be dealing with those circumstances, right? But maybe somebody else is dealing with, you mentioned no stress. Somebody else might be dealing with stress, because you said, hey, two things. I fell off and I lost motivation, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter the circumstances or the challenge or anything like that. Somebody else might be dealing with, stress at home, stress at work, or an injury, illness, anything like that, where that can also lead to falling off the wagon and losing the motivation. This is going to be really good. I don't want to just do all the talking though. So I want everybody to go first, or whoever wants to share some
Can
tips
I
or
add one
whatever.
last thing to you? Is that okay?
Add as much as you want,
I,
man. Get
I
more
forgot to
context.
bring this up. So my mom calls this the sandwich period in my life where my parents are starting to get older and then I'm taking care of kids. So I'm taking care of my parents. My dad's got cancer. He's got prostate cancer and he's also got bladder cancer. And he's also got dementia. So if I don't take him to his appointments, he won't go or he'll forget. And so that's been another issue on top of it. Right now we're sort of in a period where things are going pretty smooth. Like he's not doing treatment right now. But he goes through these periods where he gets these tiny little tumors in his bladder, and then he's got to go through what's called these BCG treatments, where it's like once a week for 6 weeks, he's got to have this stuff, injected into him, and then he takes it out. So it's just been like this constant thing, like one thing after another, and it's fine. Like my stress level, really, really, I'm good. Like I'm probably under more stress than I realize, but I feel normal as far as like I'm not to the point where I'm like on edge or having anxiety or anything like that. So I just forgot to add that one little piece. So I feel like that's another part of what's going on as well. So
So let me ask you this then, Brian.
yeah,
You said you're not underneath stress, you feel normal. Do you think that is the truth, or do you think that you're too, or you're comfortable with the stress because it's been so long? You mentioned about it's been almost like a year since you kind of fell off a little bit. So do you think that,
yeah,
maybe that's the issue, is like you're so used to the stress where you feel like it's okay, but you're just kind of barely getting above the surface to, breathe for air as you're slowly drowning?
maybe. I mean, I feel like that's something I didn't quite think about. I don't, like I said, I don't feel like I'm stressed, like on my blood pressure or whatever. But there are times that I do get stressed out, like when there's a lot going on with work and then the kids and all that. But that's just normal everyday life stuff. But I don't know what it is, man. Like I feel like I go through this pattern, and this has been an ongoing. I'm not gonna lie, this has probably been an ongoing issue in my life where I'm like the all or nothing mentality is a big struggle of mine. It's like I'm all in and then I'm all out, and it's like I'm tired. I'm trying to get through that. That's been my biggest struggle. It's been the way since I was a kid, like the classes that I enjoyed, I did well, and classes I didn't like, I didn't do well. And so it's just like I'm fighting with that personality trait of mine as well. As I've gotten older, I've been able to deal with that better. But I feel like, I don't call it a cheat day, but a day like where I just don't track real well. I feel like if when I do that, then I take like 7 steps backwards and then I fall off completely. And then it's like, and then I make it compound it with day after day after day after day, instead of like saying, okay, you had one day where you decided not to track. Let's just get back on track the next day. I feel like that's been the cycle that I've been living in.
Okay. Yeah,
So
this is going to be good to help you out.
yeah,
For starters, has anybody else felt like that before? Like what Brian's kind of feeling like? Okay, Gabe put two hands up. So, Gabe, let's go to you first, brother. There's going to be a lot of people talking on here, and then I'll just wrap things up at the end. Gabe, what are some tips for Brian? Anything that you want to share in terms of maybe like how you kind of deal with the crazy, busy, obviously being a business owner, there's always fires that you have to probably put out, constant storms and whatnot, where it gets you off track, right? So maybe share with him maybe some tips that you personally do, or maybe some mindset like keynotes to kind of just help him put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, so Brian, yeah, and I'm just glad that you're here sharing this and actually like being vulnerable and talking about it. Like
Yeah.
that's step one, man. So like big old hats off to you because it takes cojones to like admit that, I have to, hit my reset button. So with that being said, man, what you're going through, right, is you see this in actually military guys where they can't tell the difference whether they're in war or they're at home out of service because everything is war to them, right? A lot of guys that are officers, they also go through this where the two worlds blend and they can't tell where they are and they are just a cop all the time. So what you're going through is kind of that world, but what happens is you're so used to being in pain that you don't feel the pain, So it's there. You we kind of compartmentalize certain situations in our life so it doesn't affect how we work and how we operate. So they're not saying that's a good thing, but that's kind of what's going on. So pretty much you can actually come around that. But as far as like everything with doing with yourself and how to better yourself, right? It just like stick to the basics, man, because I kind of went through that too with a lot of things going on, new things, like especially like right now, like I meant like today, like I bare minimum I was gonna hop on this call because like I haven't even been on the app in 24 hours and I feel like I'm missing out. But at least if I made it to the call, I'll get myself caught up, right? We get some inspiration going, share some things, and the fact that you're saying this, just like don't overwhelm yourself with all the things you do. Pick one thing that's your target for that day, right? And just work one thing at a time. And remember, you're one person. You got a lot going on. Dude, new kid, illness with the parents, like you're going to be dealing with all sorts of crazy emotions, right? So understand that just pick one thing, dude. You don't have to go nuts. Like if it's making sure that I drink my water today, that's what you're going to do. Making sure that I eat my punch in my nutrition and stay on my nutrition, that's what you're going to do. Tomorrow, if you don't do any of it, that's okay. That's okay, because it's going to happen. Because what you're doing is you're calibrating, right? There's like a couple stages that happens. First you calibrate, right? Then you scale, and then you exceed. So right now you're in calibrating phase. So you're just making sure that all the pieces start putting back into the place. So just take your time, work one piece at a time. And next thing you know, dude, a week goes by, time flies. A week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and you're like, all right, cool. My nutrition's pretty much on par. I've been drinking my water. I wasn't as active as I want, but I did get, my steps in. I did do this, I did do that. So those wins are stacked, but it's not going to be like before, because you have like 10 times what you had on your plate than you had then. So the progression is not going to happen as fast, but it will happen as long as you do one thing. Just pick one thing. That's what I did. I started making sure that I just filled my water bottle. Forget about drinking the whole thing. I just make sure I filled my water bottle and I brought it with. That's it. I drank what I could out of it. Maybe I got a quarter of it. It doesn't matter, because a win's a win, right? So
Yeah.
stick to your basics, man. Don't try to think that you're going to have the same progression you had last time, because it actually took me longer because I had more things in my plate. So that you're naturally is going to take more time, and you have to adjust to the new life that you have and adjust to everything that's going on. So just take your time, because this one is going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem, man.
Wise words, Gabe. Wise words. I like that. And one thing, and then Jeremy, we're gonna go to you next because I saw you put your hand up. One thing, Brian, that I want to make sure that you understand is like this is everybody's kind of like downfall too. They get in a place where they're in such a groove where when life throws them curveballs and they fall off the wagon, they try to get back to where they were. And you mentioned that about doing the abs, and you put you out of commission for like 2-3 days because you were so sore from it. Is don't compare yourself to who you were, right? Only compare to yourself compared to like who you are in the morning or who you were the previous day. That's it. Not who you were when you were in your prime, right? Crushing it on the program compared to like, okay, what can I do better than who I was yesterday? Not, who you were in your prime. And that's going to be maybe hard for you because you're a competitor, you're an athlete, but try to have that mental kind of reset.
Brian, like Gabe said, man, it takes a lot for a guy to step up and say, I need help. So I'm going to start with a little bit of tough love with you. Why the hell are you even worried about motivation? Motivation is going to fail us every time.
Yeah, you're right.
I've seen you at your most disciplined level and you were kicking ass. So, man, forget about the motivation. Start disciplining yourself. Like Gabe said, pick that one thing. Discipline that. Then pick the next thing. Discipline that. Stop looking for the motivation because it's there. You've fallen to the wayside with it. You're letting the bad wolf kind of creep in on you a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll kind of compare your situation, which the two are different because you have different circumstances. But like when Connor's accident happened last year, man, I had to talk to my ex-wife and say, look, I need this hour and a half a day for me to get to the gym, to get my frustration out, to keep myself going, to work on my mental health. And I had to have that conversation with 2 or 3 different people to make sure Connor was taken care of. Doctors knew where I was at. Things were going on. So lean on those people that are around you. Have that conversation with your wife to say, hey, babe, I don't want to leave you with all the kids, but is there an hour and a half a day where I can step out and get back to work on me? Because this is how I feel. So, and look for those resources that you may be taking for granted around you, because women are strong. They can juggle 5 kids at a time and never have a problem. Men, we're not quite so good at that. but man, just get back to the discipline I know you've got, Brian, because I've seen you do it, brother.
Jeremy, what you said was very important because when I share at the end, going over like my tips, I'm going to relate back to what you said, if that's okay. And I think it's going to really click with Brian as well as whoever is, that maybe they're kind of losing their steam a little bit or fell off the wagon and they're trying to get back on. Who, Mark?
Yeah. I mean, I know, Coach Joe knows, and some of you know from, me speaking in, some of the Zoom calls that, I've been having mental challenges over the past few months myself. What I found is that the schedule, the routine of some of those habits actually helps keep me grounded. But that being said, you've got like where my issues were, mental, you've got time constraints. So it's a little different. So like what Gabe was saying, like what was being said, like start slow, pick one or two things at a time. But what you'll find is if you do one or two things, right, and they become habits, it's kind of reassuring because it's like, replenishing that concept of a routine that you had. And then you can build from there. It doesn't have to be everything at once, like everyone was saying. But the only way to build the discipline that Coach Jeremy was talking about is just to do stuff. So, like, combine what Coach Jeremy said and what Coach Gabe said. Pick one or two things and just start doing them, on a scheduled basis, and it'll help you mentally and physically.
Thank you.
I love that. I like how you said it too. It's like keeps you grounded. It's almost like your foundation, your building blocks. Rick, I saw your hand go up. Do you have any tips for Brian?
I don't have much, but I can relate back to like just like when I hurt my shoulder, like I was out of commission for a little while, and then I really didn't understand that when I got back to it, that I did try to do that. I tried to go back to the same guy I was in the gym, and I wasn't that guy, and I was like, oh man, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Did I, you know what I mean? Like because I totally lost it, almost, and it took some time to get back to where I was, and I just got back there, kind of, almost. I'm not quite there yet, but I go with the saying, like I heard him say that he's starting over. I don't think that he's starting over from scratch, because he already has the resources now. He has the experience. Yeah. He has all of us, Coach Joe, all the coaches. The resources are there for us to, for us to use. And I remember when I first started from scratch with no resources at all. And I would just say that, you're the experience that you have, and the determination that you have, I think that you're going to be just fine, brother.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. Who else has some tips for Brian? Let's go to Mike, and then we'll go to Chris.
Hey, Brian, you're saying you're, having a struggle finding motivation. Brother, you got 3 little ones running around your feet all the time, right? What do you want to show them and be the leader for them, right? You know what you need to do. Do it.
Plain and simple to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Mike does talk, he always drops some fire. Even though it's not a lot, he drops the fire. Chris, let's have you go next. I saw you put your hand up. Any tips for Brian?
So I will first say that I'm not good at this either, but I'm working on it, and that's changing my language. So when you say you fell off, starting from scratch, spin that perspective of you didn't fall off the wagon, you just wandered off the course a little bit, and you're not starting from scratch, just like what was just said. You have knowledge, but remember the strength you have inside. I mean, you're a beast of a guy, and you're a dad, and it's a phenomenal position to be in as a parent, but it's a way to teach your kids as well. Language and words have power, and we need to choose them wisely. And you didn't fall off the wagon. You just wandered off a little bit because other things are taking your attention. That's all.
Thank you.
I love that, Chris. That is hands down probably the advice that I wish everybody, including myself, takes key note on, right? It says in the Bible, right? Proverbs 18:21, death and life are found in the power of the tongue. So I love how you came in here, Chris, and said, hey, change the language, right? It's something that we all need to remind ourselves to do the same. Brian, does anybody else have any tips for Brian real quick?
I just, Jeff G put in the chat that Bill just texted him that he lost his connection, but his advice to Brian would be to control the things that you can control.
I just now saw that. Yeah, control the things that you can control, which is huge, huge. Because I'm actually, let me write that down real quick, so that way I can tie that into the third thing. Okay, so I'm gonna send you guys over after this Zoom chat, the midweek motivational video. I just got done recording it this morning, and I had to do a lot of thinking about it because I wanted to create something that was a little bit different in terms of like what is valuable, what is, going to help you guys out in the biggest sense. And it's not so much the game plan towards the goals. I mean, if you guys think about it, it's like, hey, you want to lose some weight, get off your medications, have more energy, have more confidence. Awesome, right? Let's work out, let's eat healthy, get some steps in, drink plenty of water. That's where it starts, right? Is having a plan, having a game plan. But here's the thing, and this is something that just recently I've been thinking about a lot. And show of hands, I guess. Does anybody have a game plan when life throws them curveballs? Interesting. But yet we're all here following a plan to work towards our goals, right? Let that just sink in. So the midweek motivational video that I'm going to send you guys over, it obviously goes over a lot more details in terms of, more context than what I'm going to share with you guys next. But I personally have been using what's called a 3-step framework, but it's a game plan specifically for when life throws curveballs and throws, challenges my way. We all deal with stress. Brian, your stress is, home life, challenges with the schedule, right? Feeling like, you fell off the wagon, you're losing the motivation, right? Somebody else's stress and challenges might be injuries. Maybe it's the sickness. Maybe it's finances. Maybe it's career. Maybe it's worry, doubt, anxiety, regardless, right? But it all boils down to having a plan, just like how, somebody might have a goal, right, to get off their medications. Somebody else's goal might be lose 30 pounds. Somebody else's goals might be have more energy, have more confidence, longevity. The goals might be different, but regardless, you still need a plan. Well, the challenges over here might be different for some people. You still need a plan, right? So what I personally use, and as I talked about in the video that I'll send you guys over, is not saying you guys need to steal this by any means, right? Mix and match whatever works best for you, because just like with diets, right? The one that wins is the one that you can stick with, right? The one that's sustainable for you. So my 3-step framework, right? When life throws me these curveballs, right? Is family, it's fitness, and it's faith. And I'm going to talk about this in a way where hopefully it makes sense. And remember, maybe those categories don't float your boat, but maybe something else does. So, for example, family, okay? I don't mean just blood related, okay? This could be you guys are my family. This could be, people at my church is my family. But the reason why that's so important and why it's number one, and remember, this is a 3-step framework for when life is throwing you curveballs, when life is throwing you adversity, okay? We talk about the power of community so much, right? Having support, having the right people in your corner, helping you, motivating you. Well, guess what, Jeremy, you just mentioned that, hey, when Connor was dealing with, in the beginning stages with everything, like you needed to go talk to your ex-wife. You need to go talk to these people so that way you can also make sure you're changing your schedule around so you can focus on filling up your cup. Well, guys, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe I heard this once or twice. Doesn't it take a village to raise a child? Has anybody ever heard that before? It's the same thing also when it comes to getting over our challenges. I mean, just talking to people, getting stuff off our chest helps out tremendously. Whether they have the right advice or not, it's just literally you venting, getting it off your chest. It's like going out to war. You don't want to go out to war and fight this huge army all by yourself. You're not going to feel confident.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel like there's any support. But on the flip side, you go off to war, you got your brothers in arms. Guess what? You still might be scared, but at least you're a little bit more supportive. At least you're a little bit more confident in your own skills, knowing that you feel comfortable. There's other people next to you that's helping you along this journey as well. So, just like what Gabe said about, hey, kudos to you, right? Coming in here, admitting that you need help. Dude, that's awesome, right? You literally just did that. You got that off your chest, which helps out so much. So that way you're not carrying the burden by yourself. My pastor says this all the time, a problem shared is a problem cut in half. And having that family, having that community, having that support helps out so much. The second is fitness. And obviously, with this being a health and fitness, coaching program, what do we talk about often, right? It's not so much about the physical, but also, hey, what's going on with the mental? What's going on with the emotional as well? So the laws of thermodynamics is like this, Brian. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? So it's like maybe something happens in your life that is like what Bill said, it's out of your control. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to still feel negative about it or angry or upset, right? It still might affect you. What you need to do is find a source in terms of fitness, right? That's going to help you redirect that negative energy into a positive outlet. So, personally, for me, my second girlfriend that I had way back in the day, she broke my heart, right? Just like pretty much every ex-girlfriend that I had, right? So it's like at that time though, I was still, this is when I started doing mixed martial arts. Okay. And so what I decided to do was every time, right? Because I'm an emotional guy. I'll always admit that I'm sensitive, right? Anytime I was dealing with, just my mind wandering, right? Like, oh, I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. Da 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 da. The bad wolf, right? The emotions. I decided to just go to the heavy bag and just hit the heavy bag. And that's what I did. And it helped me get through that heartbreak a lot quicker. Simply because anytime I was in my own head, I used that as a source to say, okay, negative energy, let's redirect it to a positive outlet. And it doesn't have to be just physical, right? I use that, but also in today, right, when I'm dealing with stress, I just go for walks outside. There's other times where, hey, maybe meditation or gratitude journaling, right? Now you're working on the mental, maybe the emotional, anything like that. You're redirecting that negative energy. I've said this plenty of times. You're never in control of your very first thought. So maybe like that first thought for you, Brian, is, hey, this is going on with my dad, or this is going on at home, or I'm not good enough, or this ab circuit kicked my butt, or I'm not feeling motivated today. It's going to come, right? We're all going to have that bad wolf creeping in, feeding those lies, but it's where you have to give yourself permission to say, okay, what is going to be the second thought that I can produce? Should I listen to this bad wolf, or should I create a new voice in my head? And that's where I love what Chris said about, change the tonality, change the words that we're saying to ourselves. And so often we don't speak those words of life into us, especially when we need it the most, because we can all be the heroes in our own story, but we need to give ourselves permission to start speaking in that way. Okay. And then the third and final, three-step framework to this is faith. And I'm not going to tell you guys what to do and how to do it. I'm just going to share with you guys from a personal experience. For me, there is something powerful when it comes to just like prayer for me personally, and being in the word where it's like, okay, hey, I can read through the Bible and hear about all these challenges that these guys had to overcome. Plenty of times where, God would prevail and like help these guys through. But think about it in terms of this, okay? Life is going to throw you challenges left to right, right? That's the inevitable. It's going to happen in everybody's journey, wherever they're trying to get to. Uh, Whenever you're going through these challenges, Brian and everybody else, you still need to show up. Okay. This is where you need to have faith. You still need to have, a source of trust and hope into something. So I like to say is like, hey, if I'm planting these seeds, right? Let's say my job is to become the best version of myself, and everybody's, definition of that might be different. Mine is to provide value. Mine is to be an inspiration to help out others. That means, hey, every single day I pick up my bag, I got my little, seeds of whatever I'm planting, and I want to just throw them out there into the soil. And then I want to make sure that I'm watering that soil. Well, sometimes there's not going to be any sun. I'm not in control over that. Just like what Bill said, hey, you're in control over what you can control. There's going to be some things that you're just out of control. So if there's no sun that's out there, do you think I should just not go plant any seeds? Do you think I should not just go water that, soil? It's like, no, there might be something that's going on underneath the surface that I'm not seeing. It might be still, growing there. It might be something kind of brewing up a little bit. So that way, when the sun eventually does come out, because, hey, that's life, right? We're all going to go through different seasons as ups and downs. Eventually it's going to start to grow. I'm going to start to see that. And that's where it comes to a choice. It's a decision. How am I going to look at this obstacle? How am I going to look at this challenge? Going back to what Chris said about, what are the words that we're telling ourselves? Are we looking at that challenge as a challenge, or are we looking at it as an opportunity to grow? Because you can only grow through stress. Repeat that one more time. You can only grow through stress. If you go to the gym and you have a 5-pound dumbbell and you just always do 3 sets of 10 reps, well, guess what? Eventually your biceps are going to stop growing. It's only going to go through stress. If we're either lifting heavier weights, more volume, supersets, different exercises for that bicep, regardless, it's a different stimulus on that muscle. That's what's going to make it grow. Well, faith is a muscle as well. And how we can grow stronger in that is in terms of looking at these challenges as, oh, is this something that's going to help me? Right? And how can I grow through this? But maybe you're not seeing it from this perspective because you're in the trenches. You're not taking it from the bird's eye view. And so it's kind of like what Steve Jobs once said. You can't connect the dots looking forward in life. You can only connect the dots looking backwards in life. There's where I mentioned before, right? Me always getting my heart, broken from these girls. Well, that turned out to be like the end of my world in that moment, in that situation, in that time frame. Looking back at it, I'm so happy those chicks broke up with me because I'm married to the most beautiful, woman ever. And, we have an amazing family. So it's like, it's a blessing in disguise. And this is where having faith, right, is something that can really help you out in this sense. Because now it's like, okay, hey, I don't know what's going on here, Lord. I don't know what it is that I'm trying to learn through this process of these challenges and this adversity, but I'm going to have trust. I'm going to have faith that, hey, if I just carry 50% of the bricks, like you're going to do the rest. I don't know when it's going to be. Nobody can predict when that sun's going to come out, but eventually it will. And I'm going to realize here that like all those seeds that I were planting and every single time I was watering it, whether I saw the fruits of the labor happen or not, it's going to eventually blossom one day. Does that kind of help you out a little bit?
Absolutely.
Who else has some tips for Brian? Because this is something that everybody struggles with. It's either a struggle on your health and fitness journey, a struggle, in terms of anything. It could be family life as well, where you lose motivation, you fall off the wagon a little bit, and you're kind of looking for a sense of like inspiration, and you just need some guidance. Does anybody else have any other tips that they want to share? Gabe, you said you're about to talk.
Yeah, I would say I think I forgot her name, Christina. She said I think we're the best, man.
Chris, yeah, Christine.
Yeah, she said, watch the way you talk, because you're gonna manifest those realities in your life. Being an entrepreneur, if I can constantly tell myself I have no work, or I have no jobs coming, in, well, that's exactly what I'm gonna get. And your brain, the way it works is it perceives what and creates the reality that you're looking at. So if like the Heartlight saying of I'm 1% better every day, instead of saying what you're doing is you're claiming that reality right now. You're claiming that identity. So if you keep saying, "Oh, I fell off the wagon. I'm a failure. That's what you're claiming. So, but if you say, "Hey, no, I'm in the process of becoming 1% better. Now today, I'm on my journey of regaining my life," or whatever it is, right? And the way you talk, that's definitely going to change. And also, when what was it? It was the way you're talking. Oh, yes, the fact that you're not restarting, right, or starting all over again, because you know how to track, right? So you know how to punch things into the app, right? You know how to habit stack. You've done it before. You know that you need to take some time for yourself. You know how important mindset is. You know how important the community is. You know what kind of foods you need to put in front of your face, so that way you stay in the diligent way. So you already know, like, and these are the things. That's 6 things right off the top of my head that I know because you've been through the process. So technically, you're just you just have to dust yourself off and get back on the horse. That's all it is.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you know how to ride the bike, right?
Yeah,
just getting right back on again. It might be a little bit unstable at first, but eventually it gets very easy.
Absolutely.
Once you get the momentum, dude, you gotta start flying down that bike.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's do this for the remainder, because Brian, I think it's going to help you out, but also for somebody else that's super busy, right? And maybe they just don't know what to do and what adjustments to make. This might be able to help them out as well. We're going to dive into a little bit about your schedule and kind of just go around the room here in terms of like helping you out, because there's one thing, right? In terms of, let's go back to the first thing I said, family, right? This is another form of a family, right? Hey, you're talking, you're getting stuff off your chest, you're getting things from a different perspective. Well, let's say if I was on, my health and fitness journey and I didn't know anything, okay? I just knew like, hey, at the end of the day, I need to lose some weight. And let's just say I worked at an accounting firm, right? And let's just say that I'm, eating more protein, getting more steps in, lifting weights, getting, all these things that we should be doing. Okay. And let's just say I'm doing all the right things, but I'm not seeing any progress, right? I'm only looking at a number on the scale and the number on the scale isn't going down. I'm getting all upset about it. And I happen to tell my coworker at work, Steve, I'm like, Steve, like, hey, like, I'm doing all this. I'm not seeing the number on the scale go down, right? And I'm getting ready to throw in the towel. I'm getting ready to quit, right? It's very discouraging for me. What if Steve tells me, but dude, hold on a second, man. Like, you're lifting weights, you're eating more protein, your body is burning the body fat, but also building that lean muscle. Muscle weighs more than fat, Joe. It's like just by hearing that, and then maybe Steve is telling me, like, dude, you have more energy, you're more positive, right? You're more consistent with things, but also like you're looking a lot better, like in your work clothes and all that stuff. And maybe I start to actually see a difference as well in my appearance in the mirror. But maybe at first I was only looking at the number on the scale. So you can see how, like, me only taking one form of a metric, which is the worst metric in the world when it comes to weight loss, is the number on the scale, that could sabotage things and make me want to throw in the towel and just completely quit. On the flip side, though, hey, Steve tells me this. It's like, oh man, whole different perspective. Next thing you know, I have inspiration. I feel a little bit more motivated because now I'm looking at it from a different perspective of, oh yeah, I am progressing in these metrics. So, Brian, why don't you kind of tell us in terms of schedule, right? Like, walk us through all that, because then what we can do is maybe give you some different perspectives on maybe what you can do or should do just to kind of help you progress. So that way you've kind of flipped the switch on things where you don't feel like you fell off the wagon. You don't feel like you're losing the motivation. Instead, you're showing up and you're like, oh man, I am winning. Kind of like what Gabe said, a big win or a small win, it doesn't matter. You're still winning. You're still progressing.
Okay. Yeah. So, my schedule for work is 6 to 4:30 Tuesday through Friday. And then I have weekends and Mondays off. And then we try to shoot to go to bed around 9 o'clock. If I'm in bed by 9, we don't necessarily fall asleep. Like last night, I don't think I went to bed till like 10:30. I try to get to bed before then, but it's kind of hard sometimes because the baby's still kind of up and down, and the kids are up and down. Like, it just depends on whenever they're, when they get ready to go to bed. Basically, we try to get them up. We try to have everybody ready to go by like 8 or 9, but sometimes they'll just be wired and they'll be up till 10 sometimes. So that's always a kind of like just depends on the night, which isn't a big deal because I'm still getting plenty of sleep. That's not an issue at all. And then we've got baseball practices, either practice on Tuesdays and games on Saturdays, or they'll have 2 games a week. And then pretty much other than that, it's just doing the normal stuff around the house, cleaning and watching up the kids. And Blake's got school during the day, so my wife generally takes him to and from school Monday through Thursday, and then spending time watching other family members' kids. So my schedule is I'd say it's fairly open. Like, I don't think the time is the issue. It's just harder. I feel like it gets harder as the night goes along. What I'm struggling with is before, what worked for me was getting up really early to go work out. But that's missing out on the family time is the hard part. I don't want to take away too much time from the family time. So I feel like the only way to really make this work is to get back into the 4 o'clock routine again. And then start the day off lifting,
So, Brian, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What do we say about the workouts, brother?
5% sprinkles. Yeah.
Right. So, if in the time of your day, like, do you take the kiddos to baseball practice?
Yeah.
What do you do while you're there?
Pretty much either my other kids are with me, so I'll watch Austin, or I'll talk. I have time to do stuff around there. I could go walking for sure. Or something.
Take the ones that are with you, or walk around the park for, you can walk around the field, on the outside of the field. You can still watch them play and get your steps in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Solid advice. So it's simple things like that, Brian, that make the changes happen. Plain and simple. Remember, I don't want, and it's a mental switch for you because you're thinking so much about where you were compared to who you were yesterday. That's your competition. It's not who you were in your prime, it was who you were yesterday. I was going to ask, now that you said that you're back at work, you're still working from home, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So like, are you on the computer a lot for
Oh
work?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe something, right, that can maybe help you out is like getting like a standing desk.
I
You
have
know,
that. I have a sit stand, so up and down. Yeah.
perfect, man. So I would recommend doing that. And if maybe you don't have the time to, let's say actually get some movement in steps, like when you're at work, is I don't know, maybe like every hour on the hour, put your timer out, okay, like on your phone, a stopwatch, set it for 2, 3 minutes, and just fake like you're jumping rope, right? Just bounce around, right, like you're jumping rope, 2, 3 minutes, so small, but you'll be so just like one more energized just from that simple bouncing effect. Also, two, those are steps,
Yeah.
right? Your legs are going up and down. Those are steps too. So having that break things up can just add to more, once again, just more activity because that's what you need to do is just focus on like what are the small little things differently that I can do in my lifestyle to add more into that because eventually you're going to get back into a place when it's like, hey, you're going to have the routine and everything like that. But during the midst of the chaos, what you're in right now, in terms of, hey, it kind of being like a little bit of a challenge, right? And you kind of feeling like you fell off the wagon, kind of feeling a little bit more, like you lost the motivation, you lost the steam. All of this is eventually going to go back to its old ways, right? The sun's going to shine again, so to speak, right? So establish some things that you can progress with now. So that way, when life is a little bit more flexible for you, life is a little bit more easier, you can make those bigger adjustments. So focus on the small things now so that we have an easier job staying consistent. You did, however, though, answer your question. I was going to answer it for you, but you did answer it, which is you should probably wake up a little bit earlier, right? When you were in your routine, it was, and you mentioned before also, you said specifically, I'm getting plenty of sleep, right? So
Yeah.
awesome. Set the alarm, wake up early, you have the equipment at home, do something right before the kids even wake up. It is going to feel like the biggest weight being off your shoulder also. Because I know at times, like if you feel like, oh, you woke up, kids are already up, you got to make breakfast, you got to help out, da 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 da. In the back of your mind, this is where we can start having those negative thoughts because it's, hey, I need to do this, I need to do this, but right before I can work out, I got to do this, 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 and this, right? Priorities first, and then it feels like, oh, maybe, we're going through the motions or just trying to get a quick workout in, or we completely missed the workout at all. And then we start beating ourselves up about it. So if you have an opportunity in your schedule where, hey, you can wake up, and get that workout in, then it revolves back to what Jeremy was saying, which was screw the motivation, focus on the discipline.
Yeah.
And that's it, because that's what's going to help you primarily get to back to where you were, is not necessarily what you were doing in terms of like the training and all that stuff, but it's the discipline. It's the commitment level. Does anybody else have any other tips for Brian? Like, what is some things that he can do? And remember, guys, it doesn't have to be physical because that's only one piece of the puzzle. What about working on his mindset? What about working on maybe some affirmations for himself, different things like that? Does anybody want to share some light? Brian.
So first of all, dude, you're a great dad. Number one, tell yourself that every single day. You're a great dad. You're a great husband. Look at yourself. Do that positive affirmation in the mirror. Because you're helping your wife out, and she's tired. She's stressed. She's breastfeeding, as you said. Just remind yourself every day that you're a great dad and a great husband.
Thank you.
Yeah, puts like a sticky note somewhere, Brian, honestly. Jeremy, you did that all the time with Jeremy. You probably still do, where it's like you have those on your mirror, right? And you and Connor will say the affirmations.
Every morning. I mean, Connor's got his right up here. He gets up and says every morning. But Brian, write a letter to yourself. The self that you can be. That self that you have been. But this is going to be to your future self. Tape it to that bathroom mirror and read that, and pour your heart and soul into it of what Brian 2.0 is going to be. how disciplined he is, what his mindset's going to be, what his self-love, his verbiage, his self-talk, and his discipline is going to be each and every day. Because if that's front and center to you first thing in the morning, that's the first thing you're going to see before you go to bed, and hopefully brush your teeth at night. You'll see it at night too. You're waking up and going to bed with that 2.0 version of yourself staring you in the face, telling you what you're going to do and how you're going to be.
Yeah. I would definitely do that.
I like that. That's a great tip, Jeremy. Who else has some tips for Brian?
Hey, Brian, I just sent you something to your phone that I saw this morning that might be helpful. And one of the things, it's Japanese, how they handle things. And one of them was, work undisturbed and undistracted for 25 minutes and then take 5 minutes off and then just keep cycling that. So we addressed that, I think. And it has some other things that touch on the same thing we've been talking about. I'll post it in the group too. Just it's from Instagram, and I think it'd be helpful.
Thank you, Tom.
How's your dad doing, by the way?
He's doing okay right now. He's handled the shot well. I mean, he hasn't had any. The biggest fear for me was, they said leg strength and all that, and but because he's in his 80s, they said that he probably won't have like the mental issues or, with your testosterone being lowered, because his testosterone's already pretty low being at the age that he's at. So he hasn't been any emotional issues or anything like that. But it's also hard to tell because my dad, I mean, he's got dementia. So I feel like he's kind of like on what I call like autopilot, he just kind of goes through his day. Sometimes I wonder if he has really any emotions or not. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes, like my dad's not the same person he used to be, and it's hard, but he's still functionable. So it's tough on us because we don't know, you fear like, is he being, is he taking care of himself? It's just hard. It's hard because, he still drives, he still has his house, but the way his house is kept is not what it was when I was growing up. I mean, he's former military, Air Force, captain of the Air Force, very military, very disciplined, and things are just different now. So it's just hard to see that, but he's also cognizant enough to where I can't, I don't want to put him in a home, but he also wouldn't be very open to that. So it's a very hard thing that we're dealing with right now, because he's not so bad where it's an easy decision just to do this, so that's been the biggest struggle right now is, but he's handling the cancer treatment well. So in some ways it might be a blessing that he's not super emotional about everything, because of the dementia, because dealing with cancer is always a tough thing, regardless of how big or small it is. It's the mental part of it is such a big deal. So the fact that he may not be dwelling on that's probably a good thing in the long run. But it's hard because my
trust
dad,
me, I know about that.
Yeah, and he doesn't open up. So it's very one-word answers. My dad, it's almost like when I take him to his medical appointments, we could literally sit in the truck and he won't say a word to me the whole time. So it's just hard. That's all. It's just tough.
Hey Brian, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Beginning of this, you said my stress is fine. Think about the word you just said. Brother,
Yeah.
that is all stress. Everything you just laid out, stress. Contemplating having to put your old man in a home, seeing him turn into the man that he's never been before. Brother,
Yeah.
that is all stress. You have become comfortable in your own chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You've got stress. It's there. You're just ignoring or not acknowledging everything that's taking effect on you.
Yeah.
And
you
may
hit the nail on
want
the head.
you may want to jump in and start doing some journaling about the things that are on your plate, the things that you can control, can't control, and pick and choose the things that you can, and you're gonna have to turn loose the rest, man, because you're tanking yourself with that stress that you're saying doesn't exist.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, Jeremy, you beat me to the punch, because as he was saying all that, I was thinking the same thing you were, and I'm sure a lot of others were as well. It's like, that's stress, Brian. Like, and remember what I said earlier, where it's like you got so comfortable in that stress, you don't even realize it's stressful. But like, hearing what you just said about your dad, I mean, that's worry. That's, kind of fearful at times, right? Whether you feel like an actual emotion sensation through your body or not, it's still stress, you know?
You're right.
And this is where I recommend, man, putting together a game plan, right? Like kind of like that 3-step framework that I kind of mentioned, right? Where you have the right tools, you have the right resources, you have the right systems in place just to kind of help you deal with that, man. And you know, we're all going to keep your dad, you know, in our thoughts and prayers as well as you, man. You know, your
Yeah,
family with us, all of us, you know?
absolutely.
So before we end the recording, because we got a few minutes left, I want to know from you though, because remember, action, 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 right? Like that's what we need to focus on, right? And maybe that action is a decision. Maybe that action is the right words to say ourselves. Maybe the right action is creating a letter from, you know, our future self that Jeremy kind of talked about. What is like the action steps that you are going to take next that maybe we can help hold you accountable to? Maybe that's waking up early in the morning to get a workout in. Maybe that's this, that. You're going to know that better than anybody else. But would you mind sharing that? Like, what is the next action steps for you? That way we can all once again do our job to support you on that.
Uh, Basically, my action steps are I just got to stop making. I mean, at the end of the day, most of this stuff is excuses as to why I'm not doing the things that I needed to be doing, which is, you know, doing my steps, drinking my water, and all the things I know how to do. I think what I'm going to start with is I think my goal is to try to get, well, just to do one workout, to be honest. I mean, so that's going to be my goal right now. I've been like almost like, remember what who was the big guy? What was his name that was a client with of ours that was struggling when he bought his dumbbells? He said he basically couldn't even get started. It was Mark. He was having
Mark,
that yeah, he was having that trouble. Just that's how I feel like it's all out there. My punching bag's out there. I have a jump rope. I mean, I have all the things I need to work out. I just need to do them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like almost like this fear because it's not in a perfect environment or perfect situation. Like you're like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know what it is. I don't know why I'm struggling. I know it's because it's out of my comfort zone, like you talk about. Basically, this is just a comfort zone thing. It's not exactly how I want things to be. Therefore, it's difficult, I guess. But really, it's not. I don't know what's up, man. It's just weird. So, I guess my accountability part of it is this. I just got to get back on my nutrition daily. That's the main focus is nutrition. My steps will be easy because I get most of my steps I get still, regardless. When the kids are chasing them around all day long anyway, that helps. So it's not too much more to ask to get to my 10,000 steps. And then I need to get back to my push-ups and crunches every day. And then I think my goal is to get to 3 workouts a week, regardless of whatever that is. So if it's punching bag, if it's lifting weights, if whatever it is, just has to be three movements, 3 workouts every week. And if no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah. I mean, sounds good, right? This is the Coach Joe, right? The tough love, right? Sounds good, all the right answers I want to hear. But at the end of the day, like you probably known for a long time now what you need to do, but yet we're still not doing it, right? That's the issue. So before we get to this, why don't we focus on something else that we can do to get the ball rolling? And what I kind of heard from you was, hey, I'm making up excuses because the environment's not right. It's just like, you know, waiting for the perfect time to, you know, have kids or the perfect time to get married, right? There's no perfect time. You just create it, right? You just, you know, when you feel it, you feel it. So my recommendation for you is start small and start something where you're creating that environment. And maybe this is just my, you know, 2 cents. What I kind of heard from you is start the alarm and just wake up early. I didn't say work out, wake up early. Start there. Right? Because that's something that you can easily do is just wake up early, whether you know, hey, go get a workout in the morning, or whether you're just, you know, making coffee and journaling or reading a book or watching something on YouTube, who cares? You're kickstarting that circadian rhythm, right? For that new routine where you're creating that environment. And then start off small. I think that's the best tip that anybody would say is start off small. Does anybody have any tips though, right? Because Brian knows what he needs to be doing, but it's getting there, right? It's that mental thing, right? Of getting outside the comfort zone. It's the good wolf versus bad wolf. We've all been there, Brian, right? We've all been there, but it's still something that it's kind of like pulling us back a little bit. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, because you're in a situation like me where you're currently dealing with working out from home and you work at home. So one thing that I do is like just randomly, like throughout the course of the day when I need to get up away from the desk, I'll just do a random, I'm not talking about a full workout. I'm not talking about 45 minutes. Just do a set of something on your way through the room, right? And that way you're just kind of kickstarting that, muscle memory, that whole thing, right? And then, maybe that's a way to ease back into the workouts, but you've got the stuff right there, you're working right there. Just kind of do an exercise or two, when you need to get up from the desk.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Jeremy?
So, Brian, I'm going to go off of what they said completely. I've been in a situation where this right here, this is my comfort zone. I've got an elliptical out here. I've got a leg press machine. I use them because I put that discipline in place. No ands, ifs, or buts. I have to use those. But it's so easy because this is the comfortable environment to say, no, come up with an excuse. It may take you going back to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning for a short period of time to get your mind back to where you need to be, get you out of where you have an excuse. Because if you show up to the gym, there's only one thing to do. But if you're sitting in your kitchen staring at your dumbbells and a box of ho-hos are probably going to win. So you may have to get yourself in a conducive environment for what you need for a short period of time till you get your discipline.
Yeah.
Good idea.
You're forced to make a change at that point. It's like if I took Oakley, right, 5 years old, threw him over in, Italy, he's eventually going to learn how to speak Italian, right? You're forced to. So yeah, that's ripping off the Band-Aid. I like that. I like that a lot, Jeremy. Brian, was this helpful?
Absolutely.
Solid. Keep in mind,
Thank you,
man.
guys.
Yeah, no problem, man. Keep in mind your family, brother. We're going to be keeping your dad also in our thoughts and prayers as well. As you also and the entire family.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
no problem.